My Doma Studio is your complete designer toolkit. You know this, right? My Doma makes it easy to streamline your processes, track your projects, communicate with clients, and just get organized. It is created by designers for designers, specifically to address what you need as a design business owner. My Doma is now together with Studio Designer, and they are the industry-leading solution. With 20,000 plus users, more designers choose their platform than any other. Are you ready to reach the next level of profitability and efficiency? Book a demo with My Doma Studio today by going to mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. That's mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I'm so excited to have my good friend Kate O'Hara back with me. This is the first part of a two-part CEO conversation about how to scale your interior design firm. First of all, you know Kate O'Hara. She's been on the show many, many times. She is the CEO of O'Hara Interiors. She is also the new proud co-owner of the Design Influencers Conference with my other good friend, Nicole Heimer of Glory and Brand. And if you're thinking, wait, I thought I heard something about O'Hara Interiors after 40 years, deciding to close their business, you're right. Head over to O'Hara Interiors, social, and all the things to get the full details. All I can tell you is, just like everything that Kate does, she did it with thought and with strategy and concern for all of the people involved in this decision, herself, her parents, her employees, her clients. It's a well-informed, good decision, and I congratulate Kate on this new era of her business journey. Now, as I said, today is the first part of a two-part series, and Kate and I get this question all the time. How do I scale up when I've already got a filled pipeline of clients, right? It's like, it's the next version of building the car as you're barreling down the road at 65 miles an hour. And so in today's part one episode, Kate's going to break down the three options that you have, okay? And each path comes with pros and cons. Each one has its key pieces that you as the CEO need to know in order to be successful. Sometimes the answer will be to bring on another designer. That comes with challenges, okay? And other times, the option will be different. We're covering each path forward and how to make sure that your business stays strong regardless of which path you choose to scaling. Then in part two, we're going to talk about how you can use the space you create with one of those paths that you've created to increase your revenue. All right. Very good stuff. Now, before I get to my conversation with Kate, let's say thanks to Kravit Inc. We are just so happy that Kravit just continues to expand their ability to serve all of us in the industry. They have recently opened a new showroom in West Palm Beach, and other openings include Birmingham, Alabama, Charleston, Watermill, New York, and Basking Ridge in the dirty Jersey. Each showroom showcases an extensive selection of furniture, fabric, wall covering, trim, and carpet samples through the innovative Kravit Workspace model, an interactive environment designed with cutting-edge technology and thoughtfully merchandised to mirror the way you work, whether that's by category or color. All right. So go to Kravit.com to open your trade account today. All right. Let's get to my part one conversation with Kate about scaling and growing your interior design business. Hey, Kate, thanks so much for joining me back on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Happy to be here.
So here's today's topic. I get this question a lot. You get this question a lot. We both get designers that come to us. Let's make assumption that the stage is set, that we're running a pretty good business. That's the
hmm
whole premise of the CEO conversations, right? We're making some assumptions that you've listened to the other 9 million episodes of the podcast and you've put some process and systems in place.
Yes.
But we get this question from designers who are like, I'm doing pretty good. I've got a pretty good pipeline. I can pretty much project that I'm going to do X amount of business over the course of the year. I've been managing it, but I see that there is opportunity to say yes to more clients, but not manage it myself. Like, how do I let go of the design? And do I have to let go of the design? And do I want to let go of the design in order to take a company that's running well, that's got all of the pistons and the, things flaring away there. But if I add more, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to do a better job by myself and my family. But what happens to that design part of it, right? Don't you have people coming up and asking you that, Kate?
Every conference I go to, every high point market I go to, everything, every time I'm out in the wild, it feels like I this comes up. I've had people really sit down and say, "Can we just have a conversation? How do you do it?" And there's not one way, but there are, I think, three basic categories of ways to go about it. And that's, I'm sure someone else would have more or fewer, but I've come to three that I think are kind of solid. And it is a real inflection point, as you said, before this started, when we were chatting about it a little bit. There is kind of this moment where a decision has to be made, and if you don't make the decision, you'll wind up making it by just sort of going with the flow. Yeah, yeah. The decision gets made.
Default in other ways. Yes, your business will start running itself around you, and you won't
Yeah,
be happy,
yeah,
right? That we're
yeah.
never happy when we don't commit to a decision, and the universe, it just keeps moving,
It
right?
does. It does.
Yeah.
And you can, it's not like you can't try something, decide isn't for you and adjust. But when when you hit that point where you're like, I've got a stable business, I've got my pipeline full, I've got clients rolling in, and but now I have maybe more clients than I can sometimes keep up with, or I can't. I've got my wait list is getting longer because I'm having to push people out, or maybe I've had a designer working for me as an assistant for so long that she's or he is starting to want some more independence, more autonomy to do some work that usually they wouldn't be doing, as a part of the work that they do directly for me in assisting me. What do I do about
And they're
that?
capable.
And they're
Like,
capable, and they're
you're
capable.
looking at them and they're wanting something and you're like, "I know you can do it too,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So what do you do there? And the answer is one of, you've got choices, right? So, and each comes with some pros and cons. You
Okay.
might decide that um you really want to stay client facing, and end of story. You really want to stay client facing, but you do want to still take on more clients. I find when I talk to designers, there's usually a little more of the business side that they could be delegating out or letting go of than they're thinking of. They're saying, I have a bookkeeper, I've got a design assistant, and I don't see how I could possibly take on more. Well, you might need to consider hiring someone who can handle your purchasing, your
Mhm.
tracking, your fulfillment, that whole side of things, and customer service at the end when things go awry. That takes a ton of time, and
Mm.
having someone focused on those things, as an example, might be enormously helpful. There just usually are some more pieces of the business that could be delegated out, that could then free up an extra day or two per week for you to then stay focused on your clients. That's an option. And if you hear me say that and immediately think, well, I could not possibly give that up, that's what I want, but that's impossible, I would challenge you to think about where that gut reaction comes from, because I have that
Mm,
gut reaction sometimes. I think I've told you about it before, LuAnn, and it's usually my a signal to myself that I might not be being honest with myself about something. I'm
mm.
having when I have that strong a reaction no, but I can't tell you exactly why. It feels like an emotional reaction no. That might mean I need to give some thought as to where that no is really coming from. And it usually comes from a place of I've been in control of all of this from the start, and letting go of that piece just sounds too difficult, or that piece is too complicated, or maybe it's not documented enough. Maybe I have a
Mm.
really clean process because I've been listening to LuAnn for years and I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I haven't put it to paper. And so training someone in on how to do it like that might seem really daunting, because that is a difficult part of the process to teach someone how to do. So, but it doesn't mean that you can't, and you got to kind of have a long term vision of what you want
Mhm.
in order to like decide if it's worth investing the time into that person.
So what you're saying makes complete sense to me, and I can see it clearly if I am small, right? If I
Mhm.
am one person designing and I have previously been designing and sourcing and ordering and checking statuses and calling window treatment people and setting up appointments and calling clients and setting up appointments, right?
Mhm.
So that makes sense. What you're saying is get more people to do those things so that you stay more time in design,
Mhm.
right? So
That's one
that's that
option,
first,
yeah.
yeah, that's that first growth marker, right?
Mhm.
That's that first step. It's like, I want to do more. I want to take more clients on, but I need more infrastructure in the back. And, I always call it more people to do the $10 and the $100 hour jobs, keep me in my 1,000 and my $10,000 an hour job.
Right.
How does that, what if I'm listening to that, Kate? And maybe I'm the next level designer and I am the principal. I am the one designing. Maybe I have one or two designers already working for me.
Mhm.
And maybe we have one procurement person, or I'm using,
A
external
service,
procurement
yeah.
services, right?
Mhm.
Exactly. Um, I have a bookkeeper, right? So let's take, I'm the principal. I have two designers working for me. I don't care what we call them. I don't care if we call them assistants. I don't care what we call them. We have two designers working for me. I have a bookkeeper. I have somebody taking care of purchasing and customer service. And there's that growth again. And
Mhm.
me and these two are handling it and we're collaborating on everything. Maybe I'm sending one to the tile store. Right. I'm not overseeing every blasted decision, but I'm really kind of driving the design and they're maybe just doing a lot of the legwork, but together we're like, this is what this room is going to look like. What's that version for that designer that you were just talking about?
Yeah, so if you are at that point where you have kind of a more robust infrastructure in place, and you still see like there's still growth available to me if I could just find a way to not have to be the person in front of every client. If that's really your sticking point is I can't be the person in front of every client, then at that point you're going to have to, and this is so difficult for people when they ask me about it. I get asked about this probably more often than anything else. You're going to have to actually give a very trusted, experienced designer on your team, or get started on training someone to be that person, prepared to start taking the lead on some of your projects from start to finish. They need to be
Everybody just went,
the, yeah, everyone just choked a little bit, and nobody wants that. So that doesn't mean that you have to be entirely uninvolved, but it doesn't work if the client will always be calling you when there's a problem.
no matter what,
You
right? It's like
can't be the
you could.
person, and here's why. If you're not involved in the day-to-day of a project and there's a problem and the client is calling you, you are left in a position of having to give away. You always, I mean, you can never say to a client, "Well, I don't believe you, but I don't actually know because I wasn't there." You weren't there. So to dispute the client or to say no is often to basically call them a liar. And they're
Yeah,
probably not lying. They probably
right.
believe what they're saying, but you weren't in the room, they were, and you have to become this like it's messy. So
Yeah.
you need to be able to not just let your designer kind of lead things and have occasional client facing moments, but they have to become your client's authoritative designer, the leader of their project from start to finish, in order for this to work, in my experience, if you're going to do this. And that's the moment where and as I'm talking to designers, they say, "Yeah, but how do you do that? That's impossible. Like how on earth do you do it?" Because, my face is on everything, my name is on everything. When people call, they think they're going to talk to me. How do you set it up? And it actually does. It's a fair point. It starts with marketing. It starts with how you position your brand. And as you grow, you have to shift a little bit. You can still be name brand studio, but maybe it's not always your face. Maybe you start featuring your designers. Maybe you start adjusting your copy and how you talk about your services on your website and to potential clients and on socials, and you start referencing your designers, or the
Mm,
team, and you start kind of just gently creating an expectation that I'm hiring this firm and I might be working with another designer. And you
mm.
also have to get pretty comfortable being self-deprecating, and humble very quickly.
Right.
I
Right.
I mean, I saw, O'Hara Interiors started with my mom, and it was Martha O'Hara Interiors, and she worked with every client to begin with. And it was not long before she grew and said, "No, this runs better when I have other designers working for me." And at first, she would go on the first appointments and she would barely talk. Anytime a client asked her a question, because they would ask every question to her, she would turn and say, "Well, I don't know. What do you think, Mary? Mary, what would you
Right.
do about that? Hi, gosh, Mary, you've dealt with that recently. How would you handle that?" And she would
Yeah.
act more like she was not an expert and let Mary be the expert, because Mary
Yeah.
was, and let them see
Yes.
that. So then she could say, "I think Mary's just the right person to handle this. I'll be checking in. Mary's your designer. Moving on."
Yes.
And so that was one way to start. Now, at this point, we, like with the firm, when a client calls, I take the call. Well, we schedule it, and I wind up chatting with every potential client so that we can ensure that they're the right client for us. They have a relationship with me in the studio, but I match make between me and one of my designers, because I have a team of designers, and I let them know that that's what I'll be doing. As I'm talking to you, I can, gosh, there's a designer who's coming immediately to mind, or there are a couple of designers who are coming to mind. I'm going to chat with them. I'm going to partner you with them. This will be the right person for you. If they say,
Right.
"Oh, will you not be my designer?" Which is a question I don't get very often anymore, but I used
Because of the
to.
way you're structuring the conversation from the beginning.
Exactly.
It's not it's not a shoe that you're dropping 15 minutes into the conversation.
Mm-mm.
Just
No.
everything about what you're saying is subconsciously and consciously setting up that this is the way it goes, I would
Yes.
imagine.
Our website has our team, and we feature our designers. And we don't feature me on that list. We feature the designers. We talk about their expertise. We Every designer has a sort of hidden portfolio page. It's not on the website, but if you want to see Heather's work, I can send you a link to Heather's work, and it's just kind of
Oh,
a
that's
hidden
good.
page on our website. So there are things that we do to support that. We blog and feature a blog about and feature our designers. If a designer has a project that she's particularly proud of, I'm often featured in magazines, and there might be a profile done of me. But if we just completed a project in Texas or in Minneapolis, it will be the designer who led the project who is being quoted and featured in that article,
Mm.
because it is important that people know. Now, I they may wind up quoting me as well and wanting to know a little bit about it from my perspective. And if that's what the magazine wants, you can bet that that's what the magazine gets. But but we will first and foremost feature them. So you really have to rethink things, and it's less about you. As principal, and it's more about the team and the company. What does the company do, so that you become a company rather than a you? It's really, really important. And then the team starts to adopt that as well. But it takes there's not like a silver bullet. It's a thousand little things that you do that position things. And how to start? Well, if you already have a designer who can do it and they've seen you do it a million times, what you do is you look at your book of work, and you look at, or the work coming in, and you look at what is the smallest, like lowest stakes project right now. Lowest
Yeah.
stakes can mean a lot of things. It could mean it's actually small. It could mean that it's a client who you've worked with forever and who just loves you and loves that designer, and they're going to be happy no matter what. They're just a full of gratitude sort of client who we love, and they're going to be in great hands with this designer, and you're excited for them. Or it could be that it's a short turnaround project. Maybe it's a lot of work, but it's got to happen really quick. So, okay, it'll be a little bit of a trial by fire, but it's going to get done fast. So, those projects become maybe good ones to give, or maybe it's just the projects you can't take on right now. It can just be as simple as that. And
It
those
could also
become,
be like a project that comes to my mind, like in your case, with a bigger firm that's attracting a lot of projects, if you're gonna give a designer that shot after you vetted her and she's been working for you or he's been working for you and you're just like, "Here's your shot."
yeah.
All those conditions make sense to me, and also I could see, like, a condition where good client, good budget, but maybe not portfolio worthy for our
Hmm.
aesthetic.
Hmm.
So, you're still gonna run it, you still gotta make it beautiful, but if I learn some things along the way about you being the lead designer that are gonna surprise me as the principal,
Hmm.
this isn't what we were gonna submit to AD, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. The VIP client stays with you at least until you've got an established team that leads exactly the way you need them to. Because those
Mm,
first projects, you'll still need to supervise.
yeah.
Ideally, you'll just be supervising behind the scenes. Ideally, the client experience is that they're not interfacing with you aside from a couple of key moments that maybe you've established for in order to do that. For me, onboarding's a big one, right? Like
Yeah.
taking having those intake calls, chatting with the client, making sure that they're teed up, very important. And after
Right.
that, the touch points are pretty minimal, depending on the project and a few other variables. But I have a team. I mean, some of my designers have been with me for 15 years, and some have
Wow.
been with me for a decade, right? So they don't need me to step into the project. They don't want me to step into the project. I'm just going to get in the way at that point. And that's what you want to build over time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you really want, maybe you're overseeing and staying fairly involved behind the scenes in the project and checking in regularly, but you want the client's experience not to be that at all. You want to be fairly invisible, believe it or not, to the client. So because if you're invisible, it means that the designer who's leading the project, they're viewing as the authority. And so important. And it's important to the client, it's important to you to be able to grow, and it's also important for a designer who wants to stay on your team and have a career with you to be able to actually be a lead senior, however you want to call it, designer. If they can't have that, then chances are there will come a point where they find somewhere else where they can have that on their own, or they might you know decide to start their own company, and
Right.
that's not uncommon too.
Well, and so it's interesting because in this path, I see all of the things that you said, all of the little tiny little touch points that are coming out on your website, that are coming out in social, that are coming out in the magazine opportunities, the publication opportunities that you have, where you are literally saying we, us, not
Hmm.
just the words we, us, but all the different ways that it actually is we, us. So
Yes.
it's we, us, but then, like to your point, sometimes there'll be a magazine spread about a project and that we, us is never mentioned. It's, O'Hara Interiors and Kate. And it's like, no, no, it's Heather, la,
Hmm.
la, 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 right? And if
Yeah.
there's going to be a perspective or an observation as the principal, I'll give it to you. But you're going to talk to me about the design, let's go ask Heather because she's the one whose work is featured, right? So I love
Exactly.
all of that. Okay. Here's my question. I think that any firm listening that is poised for that moment. I believe that they can take that information and they can figure that out. They can oh yeah, blog post, oh hidden, profile page, portfolio page. I think we don't have to walk them through all that.
Right.
My question though is, I could hear the person that is capable, is right at the precipice of envisioning that, taking your advice and acting on it. And what I'm hearing in my head, and I'm curious if there's other questions that you have heard, but what I'm hearing in my head is, well, what if I build this whole person up and they go, because it's not like where you are with 12, 15, however many designers. It's we're looking at this person to do it with the first designer, right? So that
Mhm.
first designer, hey, I'm going to start featuring you in print. I'm going to start featuring you in social. I'm going to feature you on my website. Now, like what do you have to know as a principal to safeguard that designer not making it the Sally Smith show under O'Hara Interiors, right?
Right.
And I understand that we have to first be good business owners and cultivate a culture where people feel valued and respected so they aren't trying to run away. But that's a fear, right? Like, I'm going
Yeah.
to build you up and I'm spending all this money on marketing and I've built my company for 5 or 10 years and now I'm going to share the limelight with you. But what if you just go running away? Some people will run. But what is the thing that you say to people at this moment, Kate, that come to you with that? Yeah, but
Well, it's gonna happen. That's it.
there you
It's gonna
go.
happen.
It's going to
That's gonna
happen.
happen, and you need to be ready for
Yeah.
that. We everyone in this industry, I think, is doing it out of some like passion and goal for themselves. You decided to start a company because it was going to be fulfilling to you. You reached a point where you felt like, I think I can do this. And why shouldn't one of your employees get to feel that way themselves one day?
Mhm.
Mine certainly have, and we've done our best to cheer them on when they have. So
Yeah.
it's going to happen. And the worst thing you can do is take it personally. It's really not about you. It's really not. It should, or if it is, you know, then we need to do a
Look
little
deeper.
looking. We need to look a little deeper,
We need a
but
therapy
it's
session.
probably not about you. It's
Yeah.
about their goals, and they reached a point in their career where that's what they want. At the same time, I have designers on my team who maybe have already run a company. They've already run their business. They understand all the headaches that come with it. They don't want to deal with
They wanna
bookkeeping
design,
and marketing
right?
and fulfillment and tracking and on and on and on. They don't want to deal with all of that. They want to design. They want their life to be focused on the client and the creativity. And so those are the designers who choose to stick with us, and those who and some people feel that way for a time and eventually go and do, I mean, anything can change, right? So you can't, there's no perfect safeguard. And
There are
ideally,
little things
there
though,
are
right?
things you
Like,
can do. There are things you can do.
yeah,
So you
like,
should
we
have.
don't have our like, I would think we don't have our own Instagram account. Sally Smith, the designer. It's like, "No, you're O'Hara Interior, Sally." Like, how those little things. Like, I get people say to me, "My designer wants to do projects under my umbrella,
Mhm.
but then wants to have her own Instagram account and her own blog featuring the projects that she's done with my company, but isn't saying that she's done them with my company." Like, I feel like that's a line that I'm like, no, sweetie,
Yeah.
come on back. You want to
Yeah.
have all the cred, then do all of the back end. I'm supporting you. I'm making it so that you can show up and design.
Yeah.
Right? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think yes. I mean, there again, there are lots of ways to handle this sort of thing, but I think it's important to keep in mind that any work done under your employment is done with all of the resources that you've provided, from
Yeah.
the vendor relationships to the support team
The
that is
procurement
handling things.
people,
Yep.
yes, the website that got the inquiry, and I took 20 minutes to make the phone call and give you the project,
Right. And you
right?
may have done the business development to develop the relationship to get to a project that was photo worthy. And you brought the photographer in, you probably paid for the photography. You probably,
Sure.
all of those things. So, yes, those things need to be supported. Now, there are companies where designers within the company do have their own pages and are encouraged to promote because it's a way to maybe do kind of
Get more
business
business.
development. Yeah, but there are rules around how to do it, and
That's
there
what
are
I'm saying,
rules
there
around
has to be
tagging. There
guidelines.
have to be guidelines. There have to be
Yeah,
guidelines. And your team hopefully is working with you hopefully your hiring process also includes some nice and healthy like non-disclosure and types of agreements, things that protect you as a company, so that if a designer were to leave their or any team member, that they're not um, going to take team members with them, or they're not going to be pursuing your clients and so on. There are things you that are appropriate for you to do that are
right.
not, that are also not like overly restrictive to
Yes.
the employee. Like you want your employees when they leave to be able to have success in what they do. It
Yes.
just can't come a at the expense of your own business and all of the resources that you've been plugging into creating what you have. So there's a balance there. This is where attorneys are so helpful. They can really help you put together something that is appropriately protective but also appropriately for like not forgiving but allowing. Um, and all of those things make a really big difference. It is also up to you to be prepared for when that time comes to be ready to reach out to those clients.
Yeah.
If someone leaves and you don't talk to a single person that designer's been working with, well, whose fault is it if they decide to go somewhere else?
That's
And
right.
it might not be even with that designer. It might be somewhere else altogether.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for certain things along the way, and you won't get them all right. You're going to screw up. And so long as every time you screw up, you think, how could that have gone better? And you fix it for next time,
Wind that
y-
back.
you're,
How could I
you're going to
change
be
that
okay.
outcome?
But yeah, there are things you have to do. And you also just have to be prepared that, this is a reality. This isn't a marriage, it's a job. And jobs have turnover and people's lives change. It might not even be that they want to strike off on their own. It might just be that somebody decides they're done. They're moving on to a different phase of life.
Yeah.
It might be retirement, it could be family building, it could be a different career altogether, it could be any number of things.
Yes.
And when and if that happens, how will you handle that? Because now you have somebody leaving with a whole, potentially list of active clients. These are all things we have to consider. So there are complications, right, that come with adding on team members, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it or consider it. It just means you have to think about your brand a little bit differently, and you have to prepare for some
Yeah.
things that if you think of them as inevitable, you're going to be much better off than if you allow yourself to be surprised or allow yourself to feel like it's some sort of personal attack, because it's not at
Yeah.
all.
So the thing is for me, I hear you and I agree with you, right? Like every employee ever. This is, it's a free country. You can work here and you can quit under good circumstances or bad. Like
Hmm.
I don't think that I when I hear the question about it, it isn't so much to that level of the non-disclosure or the
Hmm.
non-compete, I mean to say, when you leave. If you get to the point, I say the same thing to designers when if you get to the point where you're talking about my contract says this to a client, you're already in trouble.
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
you the same
that's not
thing
good.
with an employee,
Yeah,
right? Like great that it's in your contract, but if you have to say those words,
right.
we are already in a problem.
Hmm.
I'm more talking about, and I agree with you, we do expect good people. That's our job a lot of times.
Hmm.
But I mean, in 40 plus years, you know how many employees I've had that have
Hmm.
been great and went on to other great things. And I'm like, for a hot minute, I'm like, dang it, man, like you were
Right. I
good.
know, I
But
know. It's a
it
bummer every time,
yes.
and it
But
makes you all the more grateful for the people who stick around and become
yeah,
lifers.
and to your point, you're happy. You're like, I had a part in training them to
Yeah.
do something that they feel they can turn into something even better for them. All 100%. I'm talking about I have a very strong opinion on I'm talking about I'm actively working for you.
Mhm.
I'm not looking for another job. I like the work I do. You are generous enough to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing and photography and infrastructure in your design firm. Thank you, Sally Smith, CEO, for having procurement people and people who answer telephones and all the trades and all the vendors you've established. And I come in and I do design, and my Instagram page doesn't say that I work for you. It
Yeah.
just says, look at the great job I did. I'm Sally's, Susie Q, and I did this and I did that. And my thing is I've had people reach out and say to me, my designer doesn't want to credit that she works here. My designer thinks because she ran lead on the project that she should be able to post it on her Instagram, and that's her proprietary stuff. And my brain, my simple thing is, okay, you ask your designer this one question. If there's a lawsuit on this specific job, somebody's getting sued. Is it her or you? Because that's it.
Yeah, that
That's it
does
right
get
there.
to the point.
Yeah,
I
if all of a sudden it's like, "No, no, 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 I was just the designer, you gotta go," like the tub, exploded and three floors were ruined. Who's getting sued? I mean, that's absurd and it doesn't happen. But the
Mhm.
point is, the buck stops with the business owner, and you are integral. I adore you. I love you. You make my company better, but don't forget it's my company.
It's
Like,
also really short-sighted. So it just makes me feel like if people are running into that, that they and their employee have almost a fundamental misunderstanding about how this
right?
relationship works. Because,
Right.
yes, you can get into like, well, it's work for hire and like we can get into the contractual things, but like you say, once you're having that conversation, it's kind of the wrong conversation.
Yeah.
If you want, as if you're a designer working for a company
Principal.
and
Yeah.
you want to be successful, if I Google you design name, the chance of you popping up in any meaningful way, or me knowing how to contact you, all of that stuff, it's a lot lower than if I know what business I should be looking for.
Right.
Knowing what business to look for tells me how to find the person I want to hire.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense on
It
either
doesn't.
end. But there should be clear policies, and I think it and ideally you're hiring people who want to work in a collaborative way. If you've got a team that's forming and you realize you've got some people on it who are just want to be nothing but mavericks, and they don't want to pitch in for the team, and they don't want to give credit to others, and they don't want to share credit, or they don't take pride in being a part of your company, that that's kind of a red flag.
Mhm.
Not because they're a flight risk or something like that, but because
Right.
they're not being the type of team member that you probably need. And I
Yeah.
think we sometimes get, in our efforts to create really strong company culture and to be this type of firm people want to work for, it doesn't mean we have to be the type of firm that everyone and anyone can work for. Like
Right.
we look for at O'Hara Interiors a really, relatively specific personality profile. Not for every role is different, but I want to work with people who are self-reflective. I want to work with people who are ready to pitch in, who have a great work ethic. There are things that I look for that are markers, and then there are other things per position that we're looking for.
Right.
But if you
Right. Right.
can't be self-reflective first, then I know that we're going to have a hard time working together because feedback's not going to flow very well. So like that's
Right.
like I just know that about working with me, and so and so everyone kind of needs to figure that out. And I have to say, we've kind of gone through option one and option two. Option three is that all of this sounds terrible to you and you decide just not going to do that, and that's
Right.
okay too. Like the final option is truly realizing I want to keep it small, and or whatever size. Small may not be the right word, but whatever size you
Right.
are right now, I want to keep it there, and I want to simply start getting more selective about who I say yes to, because I'm going to have to start saying no. And
Right.
usually that does involve sometimes saying no to some of the clients who got you where you are today, but maybe are no longer quite the right fit.
Right. Right.
And
Instead
that,
of doing 3 projects with $20,000 design fees in a quarter, now you might do 1 every
mhm,
quarter with a $100,000 design fee, but that means those clients that were the ones that got you where you're going are you're not gonna say no to them. You're not gonna say yes to them anymore,
yeah.
right? Because you're one person and you wanna do 4 projects a year, and there's only so much you can handle, but you're leveling that project up, right?
hmm Yeah, and in those cases, what I would just encourage is that you might consider keeping a um, kind of a wait list for those smaller clients, because
Yes.
when things ebb and flow, it's nice
Fill
to
them
be able
in.
to fill them in. Yeah, if
Do
they're
you
still
do
interested.
one blind LuAnn at Window Works? Yes, ma'am, we do sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I was talking to a builder once, and and they said, "Yep, sometimes you just need the sand that fills in between those boulders."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's nice to have that sand when one of those boulders doesn't land.
That's it, that's it.
I thought that was a fair way
Yeah,
of putting it.
yeah.
So that's
I
I mean
like
that's
that.
really how I think about it. When people want to grow, you can fill in operationally to expand your time to be really front facing. To do that, you might be giving up a little bit of business control, and you also might be
Mhm.
giving up a bit of design. There are very well known designers out there who are front facing on almost every project, but there is a team behind them pulling
That's
every
right,
bit of design, doing
right.
every bit of work, and their
They're
time
basically
is
editing, right? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no,
at
right?
most,
Yeah,
yeah, at
yeah.
most, and
Yes.
their job is really to be going from appointment to be on. They are the face, and the work happening behind them is a big team. That's one way to do it. Um, it's a little, to me, that's terrifying, but only because it means that everything rests on your shoulders, in a
Yes.
way that, when do you get to take vacation? If no one else
Right.
can go to the client, and I
Right.
know that there are workarounds, but still, that's a lot. Then there's a method where you bring in more designers. Now you're letting go of not necessarily creative control. Maybe you're still staying very creative on projects and you still have time to have your hands in the business a bit more. But now you're letting go of what happens with those clients that get passed to designers. And so you really need to have a strong team and really people that you really trust to the moon and back. They can't just be
Yeah.
great salespeople. They can't just be great designers. They also have to be great humans who you really have a
Yes.
strong working
Because they're
relationship
talking
with.
on your behalf and
They
they're
are.
saying things, you
They
know,
are.
I see it and hear it at WindowWorks. I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that's
Mm.
not how we do that thing. That's not
Right.
how we talk about that thing," and that takes a lot of, training and conversations and stand-up meetings to
Mhm.
consistently, you know, um, pour into that employee that looks like it has the potential to be a lead
Yeah.
designer or whatever, but making sure they understand your values, your
Yeah.
mission, vision, values, like, hello,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, it's funny because just for that middle one there, where we
Mm.
are developing multiple designers and having them client facing and having them have relationships and having them out there with, the opportunities for press and portfolio projects and all of that. The other thing for me in that is when you say have the parameters set up, be clear. It's yes, maybe I have 10 designers working for me and you're all going to have Instagram accounts, but inquiries are going to come to blankety blank interior design firm,
Mhm.
right? And if your job that you just spent a year and a half working on, their neighbor wants to do a project, yes, it's going to go to you. You're the referral, but it comes through the front door. It still
Mhm.
comes back to Kate O'Hara, who's interviewing that client. It's like you just don't onboard a new client, right? You just don't say yes and then you end up telling, Kate at a team meeting, oh, by the way, we're 2 months in on a new project. It's like everything, like Standard Funk used to say, everything comes through the front door, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't let that run amok. It's still and the thing to me is it's like little things. It's the client's communication, the client intake. There has to be yes, I'm going to text the client and say I'm running 20 minutes late for our meeting with the builder. Fine. But there has to be the client knows that you're the designer, you're the lead, and you work for Kate.
Mhm.
But it's the business is O'Hara Interiors. It's not Sally Smith with a satellite office in the middle of this team. And
Right.
there are many ways that that touch point has that gets kept. I know it. I mean,
Yeah.
we have it at WindowWorks. We have 5 salespeople, and there are just certain things that they're like, "Why can't I this?" And I'm like, because it's window works. It's not Sally Smith window treatments,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like there's just certain things and they don't need to be onerous. They don't need to be uncomfortable. And to your point, just the way clients aren't looking to be unproductive or uncooperative, that designer employee isn't either if they don't know the rules, if they don't know the roadmap to how to be truly recognized and quasi independent and creatively, fulfilled within the business that I'm running, right?
Mhm.
Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's all true. There are points of almost sheer autonomy that our designers have, and then there are points that this always happens this way. This always
That's right.
must happen this way, and that's important because you do need to make sure that your clients are getting consistent experience.
For example, if you said these are our top 3 vendors for sofas,
Mhm,
right? Like, I'm sure you have a list of preferred vendors because you
mhm,
get better buying, you have better relationships, and you, as the CEO, are managing that.
mhm,
You don't have a designer on your team that you wake up in 6 months and you're like, wait, you've been buying all of your sofas from XYZ vendor? Like, what is this on the, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
they don't make those decisions, who we buy from,
Right.
what we do. They can bring them to you, they can ask you, they can suggest, but I
Yes.
don't believe for 1 second they're like, I opened up an account with Vanguard and I know we never used them before, but I used them in my last firm. So that's who I'm going to use on my project. You're like,
Right.
I'm sorry, sweetie, come on back here.
Right.
Right.
You every one of these stories you tell, I get a grin because I can think of 3 different funny stories that I could tell because yes, no, you are right.
These things that
And
I'm
I
talking from real life. I'm
yes.
asking you like I don't
Mhm.
know, but I know this is what
Yeah, no,
happens.
you're absolutely right. There are things, things like what vendors we carry and what our contracts are with them, that yeah, that is something that a design, like, we have a process to go through when we're opening a new account or what have you. There's a process. It can't
Yeah.
just be because this one client liked this one thing in this one picture. That
Yeah.
that
And
that
you don't
just
go
doesn't work.
rogue and
Mhm.
just setting up an
Yeah,
account and then I find an invoice at the in 30 days for
right.
this thing. And the thing is what I the thing is all of these things that employees do, designers, whoever they are, 99% come from good places. They come
Yeah.
from innovation. They come from new ideas. They come from things that worked at other firms that they work for. They are good. It's just there has to be the let me explain to you why
Mhm.
you do not run rogue in the middle of my business. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah. Well, without a doubt. I mean, and I think that's maybe an important thing to note is that if you're getting to a point where you're going to start allowing, another person to represent your company in a client facing way, and you've never done this before, you really want to define the parameters of the role.
Mhm.
What decision making is allowed and what is not. And generally, the decision making that should be allowed should be project level, not even necessarily client level, project level
Love that
decision
language.
making. And you may have to think about what within that is not allowed. If you need to if there's a new vendor that you want to do, if you're going outside of our standard services, if you're doing X, if you're doing Y, if you're doing Z, these are things that need to be approved by me. And in its earlier days, Martha was often sometimes the bottleneck of certain moments
Yes.
because she needed to approve so many things. And then whenever we would say, hey, this is becoming a bottleneck, then we would say, okay, new policy, up to this threshold you can make this decision, and over this threshold, and then you start finding ways to modify.
Yeah.
So but you've got to be willing to start by either starting off by saying, I am going to go into the next 2 to 3 years with the intention of training someone in to be someone who I can send off, or I already have someone on my team. So I'm going to take the next 6 months to get them trained to a point where I think I would feel really comfortable having them work independently by my side.
Yeah.
And it can be really fulfilling if it doesn't make you too queasy because you've been so much the brand for so long that it's hard to
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, and then the final thing, and we
Hmm.
don't have to pick it apart, I think we just say it,
Hmm.
is when you get to that point and you have somebody that like you have many somebodies that you respect at the level that you know that they're having conversations right now while you're having a podcast with multiple clients of yours. And you're not losing sleep over what Heather's saying or Mary's saying to whatever client because you've trained them, you've trusted them, you've watched them and all the things, right?
Hmm.
Um but the final thing on that is you're not, like, checking in with them once every 6 months. You're having a cadence of team meetings, whatever
Yeah.
like, I know you're a bigger company, so you probably have multiple levels of management, and maybe you're not you're personally maybe you are, you aren't, personally meeting with designer in your firm every week. But if I'm one principal and I've got 2 designers that are running independent projects, we're meeting every week. We're
Yeah.
having
Oh,
eyeballs,
your team
right?
is meeting every week. Every
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Eyeballs.
like,
Yeah.
"What's going on with Mrs. Smith, and
Hmm.
what things did you buy, and where is the profit margins," and all the things. They're not
Yep.
they're they're running projects, quote, unquote, "independently," but with weekly supervision and top-level conversations that impact all of the aspects of the business, right?
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
that level of conversation starting out that way makes it a lot easier to keep going in that
Yes.
direction. It's so
Yes.
much harder to accidentally give someone like complete autonomy and then say, oh, actually, we need to
Yeah,
add
but
some
not
structure
there.
to this. So
But
now we
not
need to
there.
check in. Actually, we've realized that we're not being consistent in our services. So now we need to check in because it feels like something's being taken away from someone to your
Yes.
employee, even if that's not your intention. And
Yeah.
so it is much better to start with a little more structure than's needed than less. And find your way to kind of shed what isn't needed as you figure it out. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Don't need to go into it more than that, but I
Yeah.
would agree there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just make sure we're saying that final point.
Yeah.
We're looking for this wonderful, we've said many traits about this wonderful unicorn that is capable of being quasi independent, but they're not actually
We all need to
completely
be
independent.
accountable, including ourselves, right? Like, I mean, how many people who have bookkeepers have not been held accountable by their bookkeeper before?
Exactly.
Yeah, we all need that.
Yeah.
And that's what you become is that accountability checkpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. It's a logical, plain path. Any designer can take it if that's the direction that he or she wants their design firm to go in, one of these three
Hmm.
ways. And it's doable. Many people have done it before you, will do it after you, and will decide not to do it. So
Yeah,
it's all good, right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
All righty. Well, I appreciate your CEO perspective as always, Kate. Thank you.
Well, thank you, LuAnn. I always love these conversations.
If you're a longtime listener of the show, and even if it's only for 5 seconds, you probably know that I'm all about profitability. And the thing is, though, I want you to know everyone's path to profitability is not the same. It doesn't need to be the same. I just want you to get there. All right. At the end of the day, you are the one who gets to decide which of Kate's paths feels like the best fit for you. But if you want to scale your business and you are already at capacity, just understand you're going to make some changes. You're not just going to create more hours in the day. By the way, if you know how to do that, call me first. Okay. All right. So you're going to have to find a way to free up your time and level up your profitability one way or another. Now, maybe you don't love the business side of things and you don't particularly want to sacrifice your client facing and your design control time, right? Kate talked about that. You can outsource many of these facets of the business and be the one who does the design and does the client facing, right? The big key here is that building strong systems and processes needs to be in place so that when you do outsource your business operations, everything is done seamlessly and smoothly. And because it has been systemized, you can easily step in, oversee, double check, make sure things are right, and step back out. Okay. Because what we don't want to have happening is that you just create more fires because you're off doing the creative, you're off doing the client facing, and somebody's doing the back end and it's not happening right. And now you're just, literally fighting fires. Another thing is maybe you want to stay solo. Maybe you're perfectly happy doing that for the foreseeable future or for the entire future. Awesome. Perfectly good, decision to make. Now, just because you want to stay solo doesn't mean you can't get more profit out of your business. You can fine tune your business. And also, Kate said, if you want to do this and you still want to level up, don't overlook the fact that getting more selective is going to mean letting go of some of the type of work and some of the types of clients that you previously worked with. And that's hard to do. I've listened to many of my coaching one-on-one clients say to me, "Oh, I feel bad. I feel bad." Like, I get it. I do. But, Kate pointed out often the biggest piece of scaling as a solo designer is understanding that this is a part of the process. And she said you can keep certain people on a wait list and possibly fill in smaller projects here and there as you scale up to those bigger projects. The really good clients that you can dip in, do a smaller project and dip out. And the boundaries are tight around it. All right. And then finally, the other option. And this is one of the options that I've seen some designers do, and that's handing over creative control to a creative director, to a senior designer. It can be scary, but we talked about many ways to make it better. It's the little touches like the wording you use on your website and the publications. It's having strong communication and expectations so that you still maintain a level of creative control, right? Especially at first. And it's also in picking the right people. The ones are going to collaborate and align with you and embody your business and your brand. now. Okay. Now, I know there are always questions about what if. What if this person wants to leave after I train them? What if they want to start their own business? What if they don't do the things the way I do? And Kate had a lot of insights in here about preparing yourself for these somewhat inevitable things. Okay. You have to know that if you don't set up systems and processes and expectations, another designer is not going to do things the way you do them. And you have to know that they are going to bring their own creative elements into the process and that you are going to have to trust them and hand over control if that's the path that you choose. Now, the other thing is you have to know that many designers will come and work for you and move on, right? But as Kate said, if you have someone strong on your team and you don't give some amount of creative control to them, they're going to leave anyway, right? You can't know that another designer isn't going to leave you, but you can cultivate the best culture you can. You can hire the right people that are, going to put in their full effort while they're there. And you can take smart steps to make the transition as strong and streamlined as possible so that you are both getting the win-win during your period of working together. Okay. And I have to say, I'm not going to say I've never been sad when a particularly wonderful employee has left. But the truth is there is so much satisfaction in knowing that you've had a part in their journey in teaching them and shaping them and, creating in them the confidence to go out on their own. It's kind of like kids. I have a joke with my kids. I'm like, I raised you with wings. Did you have to use them? Right? But I did raise my kids with wings. I wanted them to be strong and independent and self-confident and all of the things. But that does mean that, they don't need me so much anymore. And that's okay. All right. Now, in part 2, we're going to pick apart one of the big benefits of your time in doing these paths is freeing up your time and making smart decisions on how to increase your revenue in different ways. Okay. So that's going to come in part 2, how when you do this well, you free up your time, you make smart CEO decisions, and you actually increase your revenue and your profitability. All right. In the meantime, we took the lessons from today's episode from Kate and created a goodie for you that breaks down the 3 options that Kate covered and what you need to have in place for each one. Head over to LuAnnNigara.com/goodies to get yours. Alrighty, Kate, my friend, I love you. I adore you. Your brain is brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing it with us over here. And thank you for showing up and listening today. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.